All right, well, everyone, welcome to the tasting number 10 of Beauj Box 2026. We're tasting this guy. It's a hard word to pronounce in French, but it's 2021 Domaine de la Bonne Tonne, Agath de Blues, Regnie is what we're tasting today. It's a fun little label. I was really excited when I tasted this wine. When I came across it, it's just a producer that I've never even heard of. But the wine immediately spoke to me. It reminded me so much of kind of that 0-0 super natty with a capital N, kind of feral, wild, alive, kind of Beaujolais that really set me on the path of natural wine in my early days of getting into learning about natural wine. So yeah, it reminded me so much of that, kind of why I fell in love with the Beaujolais in the first place. So yeah, pretty excited to get into it today with you all. Anyways, let's look at the map because we always do. So you guys all have access to this by now. So there's a French map. You all know where Beaujolais is by now. I'm not gonna go over that. But Beaujolais, we are in Regnie, which is right that kind of a bright green spot. If you look at that wines of Beaujolais, the attachment number 2, right after Morgon. So that's where we are. It is as you can see in the map, it is the most westernmost cru of all the 10 crus. It's named after a Roman nobleman. A lot of these crus are named after Roman nobility or soldiers, kind of like, because Romans are who came here and then basically established viticulture about 2,000 years ago. So yeah, this is named after a Roman nobleman named Regnius, hence the name Regnie. But if you remember, Julianas were named after Julius Caesar, or the wines from there were served supposedly to Julius Caesars. That's why it was called Julianat. And Saint-Amour was also named after a Roman soldier who escaped Christian persecution, named Amor or Amore. So since the name Saint-Amour, the saint of love. But yeah, so same reason the Regnier is named that way. It's the youngest of all the 10 crus. So Regnier actually used to be Beaujolais village up until 1988. So then only when in 88 they were elevated to become the 10th and the final cru. There's a movement now in some of the smaller kind of ludi outside of Morgon and Regnier, right around this area. Lantigny, we featured a bottling from Lantigny last year, I believe, last year's Beauj Box, maybe 2 years ago. But so yeah, there's a movement to get like 11th cru in there, but as of right now, there are 10 crus, and the Regnier is the 10th and the youngest cru of them all. It's the newest kid on the block. The town is only 950 people, is very small. There's actually a picture of the town itself, which is attachment number 6 at Town of Regnier. There's a big, every one of these towns has their town church, and that's the prominent structure that you see in that picture. But yeah, very small town, so pretty much everybody who lives here works in winemaking in one fashion or another. But also, if you look at the Beaujolais soil map over there, right after Morgon, if you look at Regnier, it's pretty much all pink granite. There's some bluestone thrown in there, but there's no volcanic rock there. It's pretty much what we're talking about. The pink granite, which is what Beaujolais is known for. And then if you look at the Regnier soil map itself, once again, you see a lot of just a pink granite, just red kind of thrown all around. I actually was able to find, and I should have found this earlier, but there's actually a picture of pink granite. That's attachment number 5. If you want to see what that granite kind of looks like, why it gets the name pink granite, it is actually pink. It's because of the rich iron content that's in the granite. But go check it out as well. But anyways, what makes Regnier special and unique is, on average, it is the highest elevation cru of all 10 crus. Chenas was quite up there, with a lot of elevation earlier, but in general, as an overall average elevation of the entire cru, Regnie is the highest of them all. What that means is that, you know, the high elevation means cooler climate, it's a lot more red fruit driven kind of wines, brighter acidity. It's kind of very typical of what you would expect of Beaujolais style, that red fruit driven, bright, light, kind of that style. It's not the deep, dark, black fruit driven kind of style of Morgon, Julienaz, or Côte de Brouilly, or Moulin Avant, but this is a lot more of a lifted, light, just kind of a thing. Soil here, like I mentioned, is almost entirely pink granite. It is sandy and light up on the slopes, and then it's transitioning more into clay as you descend down in the altitude, as you get lower in altitude. But stylistically, like I said, it's Regnier tends to be just fresh, kind of youthful, more fruitful rather than heavily structured, tannic kind of a thing that you would expect from others. But because of that pink granite, there's always that beautiful kind of mineral underlayer, the texture to the wine. But yeah, it's basically everything that I want, or initially I really enjoy about Beaujolais, and I still do. This is kind of my preferred style, which is that kind of crunchy, vibrant, perfumed, not a power wine, that kind of like wine of pure joy, you know, just fun and delicious and easy to drink kind of a Beaujolais, and that's kind of my preferred style. And Regnier kind of definitely hits it out of the park in that aspect every time. So let's talk about who makes this wine. Very young producers. There, I found a lot of other pictures in there as well, but they're very cute. So there's this is attachment number 7. So Domaine de la Bonne Tonne is the name of the winery. By the way, the name Bonne Tonne, it means good barrel in French, but it literally comes from the old kind of survey map of the property. That's just what the parcel was called on the old land registry. 7 generations of the same family have been farming here, making wine from that exact same plot. So hence the name Bonne Tonne. But anyways, today is run by the 7th generation. So you have that picture. So that's Anne Laura Grillet, and her partner Thomas Agatensi. I'm pretty sure I'm butchering that name. Agatensi. So those two run the family winery now. But yeah, they took over from Anne Laura's parents, Marcel and Monique Grillet, in 2016. So it hasn't been all that long since they took it over, maybe about 10 years that they've been running their family winery. But Anne Laura basically grew up in the family domain, quite literally surrounded by the vines from childhood. So estate was passed from her mother to daughter for 3 generations, pretty rare thing. So it's the 3 generations of matriarchs that's been making wine and passing it down from one daughter to another, which is something that you don't see very often in the wine world. And Thomas, on the other hand, had 0 formal wine background. He grew up right here in Regnier. He's from Regnier, but worked as a solar panel engineer in Switzerland for about 10 years. And then when he and Laura decided to take over the family domain, he kind of threw himself into the world of wine. He actually went back to school for enology, then did internships and worked harvests in different kind of biodynamic estates throughout Burgundy. And then he came and joined the family winery. But it was really thanks to Camille and Marie Lapierre, which are the daughter of Marcel Lapierre. Or I think Camille is actually niece of Marcel. Marie is a daughter. Camille is a niece of Marcel Lapierre. Anyways, so the next generation of Lapierre family, it was really them who put them on the map. They just kept, the entire Lapierre family has been vocal in their kind of praise of what Anne Laura and Thomas have been doing, and that's kind of what started getting people's attention over what they're doing. But really, I mean, I see the kind of common thread. So Laura, the family estate is in Morgon, just like Lapierre's family. So these are the family estates in Morgon. They make wines in Morgon, but Regnier is kind of a passion project of actually Thomas, because Thomas is from Regnier. But yeah, this stuff is fantastic. Anyways, They've been farming organically since 2003. They're actually EU certified organic since 2006. Biodynamic practices since 2007. So I mean, they're following down the steps of all the natural wine makers, Gang of Four. I'm sure Marcel Lapierre's family had a huge influence on them. But they're also currently working on getting their Demeter certification. I don't think this is Demeter. Yeah, so it's EcoCert, but no Demeter yet. But they are working on getting their Demeter certification, which is a biodynamic certification. So they total in their total holding, their farm 6.5 hectares, so very small, across some of Morgan's finest Ludi, so Côte de Pie, Le Charme, Grand Crat. There's actually bottling. I include a picture, and that's attachment number 9. All the different bottlings and cuvées that they make. But yeah, so a lot of that is actually those are all Morgon except for this Regnie, which is plus Thomas's beloved home crew, which is Regnie. So 2 hectares here in Regnie, 6.5 hectares total, and then they also make small amounts of Beaujolais Blanc, which is Chardonnay based white wine. There's actually while I was doing some research on them, I found out that the notoriously hard to please French magazine Le Rouge and Le Blanc praised the Domaine in their autumn 2021 issue. The committee reportedly drank every sample down to the last drop, which is extremely rare. These are wines that genuinely excited the serious tasters of this French magazine, notoriously hard to please French magazine. So if that says anything about just a general, I mean, I get it, because it's like, I feel like this is the kind of stuff that what I love about Beaujolais, it reminds me of what I love about Beaujolais, is just the extreme, just deliciousness, like it's just so yummy, and I just want to keep drinking it. It's kind of that kind of thing. The Agath Blues, the name of the wine, is a love letter to the crew that he grew up in. Upon its first release, it met such praise that it became one of the Domaine's most celebrated cuvées, apparently. But yeah, here you go. What is this wine? So this is 100% Gamay. Oh, by the way, I should tell you more about some other pictures, attachments that I'm holding on there. So attachment number 8 is the actual Domaine that they sit on. So that's the holdings right around there. But yeah, and then you got some other things. Anyway, so what is this wine? This is 100% Gamay from 2 parcels within Regnie, both farmed organically / biodynamically, so certified organic but practicing biodynamic. Le Moyard is one of them. That's the 0.83 hectare, very small. Sand and quartz over pink granite bedrock. This is what gives the wine its kind of like floral lift and the perfumed character. And then Le Bouillat, which is a 0.73 hectare Ludi. This is lower in the altitude. So earlier I mentioned higher up, you get more sandy, kind of coarse soil. And then lower you go, you get a lot more clay. So more clay dominant. This is what adds a little more body, roundness, and the structure to the wine. That's kind of why I was surprised with this wine, was that not only did it have that crunchy red berry, all of that, but it also has some body. Like it's not just really light, bright, like a adult cranberry juice. It actually has some kind of base notes to the wine, and I think that's because of that Le Bouillat, the clay dominant plot, pulling in that kind of body and rightness to it. Vine age is on average 60 to 65 years old. So again, I mean, when we're talking about these cru Beaujolais, we're talking about old vines. Of course, having been to Chile now with the 250 year old vines, is 60, 65 year old vines really old, but in the grand spectrum of things, it's pretty rare to see 60, 65 year old vines. So still very, very old vines. Harvest is handpicked. After picking, grapes are chilled for 24 to 48 hours before going into the tank. What that's telling me is that what they're trying to do is really preserve all that kind of delicate aromas and flavors and all of that by keeping it chilled. That kind of cold pre-fermentation soak keeps not only the bacteria in check, because when it gets hot, bacteria gets out of control, but kind of preserves that pure, bright fruit character. It's fermented indigenous yeast in concrete vats, zero sulfur addition during vinification. And then it's aged in demi-muid, which is the old large barrels. It's not the Fougère, which is really big. It's somewhere between barrique, which is the smaller French barrels, and then the Fougère, which is much bigger. I think demi-muids are about like 500 liters in size. And then partly some of it is also aged in concrete vats, very traditional, and then they're all blended back together right before bottling. No new oak here whatsoever, bottled unfined, unfiltered with just a tiny touch of a sulfites at bottling. It's a 15 milligrams total, which is pretty much nothing. So yeah, we're talking about a very, very, all the natural wine thing that, that we love about Beaujolais. This is probably the most quote unquote natty, most wild kind of feral kind of example of in this year's box, and I love it for it. One thing I do want to mention for those of you, which are most of you who have been around on Beauj box for a while, if you remember, 2021 was a particularly hard vintage, difficult vintage for Beaujolais. It was really lean. There was a lot of frost and late hail that came. It was a really cold vintage, and it was kind of a garbage vintage, honestly. A lot of wines are just really lean. It was hard to find ripeness in fruit. A lot of people lost crops for the vintage as well. But the fact that they are able to produce this much kind of still fruit, ripeness, generosity with body, like I don't get much green unripeness here. This just goes to show good producers, even in tough vintages, can make beautiful wines. And this is where, we talk so much about how wines are all about the place and what happens there, but winemaker definitely has a role, and it shows again and again every year, particularly in difficult vintages, that you see the really skillful, good winemakers' talents and skills come through. And then I think this is one of them. The fact that 2021 is drinking this beautifully is excellent. So, all right, let's taste the wine. Okay, I mixed that up. Okay, here we go. Let's start from the top. Appearance. All right, I'm gonna call this wine, I'm not gonna call it fully hazy, but it's clear, but it is definitely not filtered. You can tell this wine is not filtered or fine, just a touch of just kind of a haze. Intensity. I'm gonna call this about medium. It's not fully deep. And again, like a Regnie tends to be much lighter. It's not going to be like super dark, deep, and all of that. So medium, intense colors of ruby is what I'm going to call this. Maybe touch up like a blue. No, I'm just going to call this ruby. I don't really see much purple in here. All right, let's get to the nose. This wine is sound. Will I call this clean? I don't know. I mean, again, this is like natty with a capital N, right? There's a little bit of a elevated VA, but not out of control. I mean, this is, we've had some wines in here in the wine club that are, VA is just fucking elevated and shooting out of the glass. But this is just of that, like a little bit like, to me, this is like that, like a fruit vinegar, it's like a strawberry vinegar. If you were to make like a vinegar out of like a cranberry, some reason, like there's some of that going on here, but there's definitely some of that balsamic character, kind of lifted character. So I wouldn't call this clean, but this is not faulty. This is definitely sound. Intensity. Circle right here. Yeah, that's quite far actually. Like right there. Wow. So I'm gonna call this a medium plus. I mean, that's almost borderline pronounced. Like that's like right there. What is that? Like 3 inches? Yeah. So I'm gonna call this at least medium plus, bordering on pronounced aromas of. What do I get? Definitely get some floral lift here, and again, that's that kind of sandy soil up in the higher up. I get a little bit like the rose petals here. Yeah, like more rose petals than violet, but maybe some like really fresh violet, but definitely some like really pretty floral lift here. No green fruit, no citrus, no stone fruit, no tropical, and then red. Here's where the reds comes in. I mean, this is a classic Regnie. I mean, it's got that fresh, bright, like red fruit dominant, like cranberry, red currant, raspberry, even wild strawberry, like pure, crunchy, really vivid. Yeah. Oh, by the way, this is also semi-carbonic. I didn't mention that earlier, which means whole bunch in a tank, layered, and then just cap it. So very traditional style. Yeah, I mean, just crunchy, really lifted, high-toned red fruit. But yeah, like and that VA is doing like just pulling all that fruit and like lifting it all up. Like, oh yeah, this is great. Yeah, all that kind of red cherry. I mean, this is like a potpourri of red fruit. I don't really get much black fruit. Yeah, to me, this is very much red fruit, and that's exactly what you would expect from Regnier. Regnier is not exactly known for black fruit; it's much of a red fruit character. Character of the fruit, to me, this is like really fresh, really ripe. Some of that high tone, some of that candied kind of a thing going on here as well. Both like fresh and candied, but like a ton of that like cranberry, red currant, raspberry, wild strawberry, all that stuff. You know, I keep going back and smelling it, and I feel like maybe there is like a touch of like a savory whisper here. Maybe just like a, like that like an unripe green strawberry kind of a part. I get a little bit of that here as well, but mostly still the fruit quality is beautiful. It's really fresh, really ripe. Nothing overripe here. It's beautiful. Herbaceous herbal. I don't get anything in let's say herbaceous and herbal. But there's definitely I definitely get the like the granite, soft rock, like a flinty almost. Sorry, my dogs are going crazy. Justin's getting home, so my dogs are going crazy. But, yeah, there's almost like crushed rock, almost flinty kind of a thing here. But to me, there's no power. Give me 1 second. I actually locked her out. Give me 1 second. All right, sorry, I'm back. Some crushed rock. There's definitely that kind of underlayer, kind of a that like granitic minerality running through on the bottom. But again, like I mentioned, like this is kind of like the elegance and lift over power kind of a wine. It's like much more precise, much cooler, much more high tone, fresh. Not a lot of like a black fruit or like base notes, anything like that. No secondary nor tertiary. This is pretty much very much in the primary rack. Okay, let's get to the palate. Sorry, man. We're also watching Betty's dog. Betty came by and dropped off her dog Diesel, so it's a doggy madness in here. All right. First of all, it's delicious. I love this one. The wine is dry. It's bone dry. Acidity. High end of medium, low end of medium plus. Tannin, there's some tannin, but like nothing crazy. I'm gonna call this like medium minus. Maybe high, lower mid medium, high end of medium minus. I mean, there was nothing crazy here. It's very fine grain, barely there, but there's definitely a little bit of a grip here. right down the middle. What does that say? Oh, here, aged 9 months in 80% demi-muid and 20% concrete tanks is what it says. And the label, 13% by volume, so right down the middle, medium. Body. Not a whole lot of body. I'm gonna call that about medium minus. And again, that's what you would expect from Regnie. It's like, it's not meant to be this huge, big structure kind of a thing. Much more light on his feet, much more airy, so to speak. So yeah, I'm gonna call that medium minus. Mousse, we don't have to talk about. Flavor intensity, again, just like the nose is very expressive here. You know, don't let the lightness fool you. This is what I say about Regnie. It's like, oftentimes it feels much lighter, but it's very expressive. Like all that bright kind of crunchy red berry aromas and flavors are very, very present. So I'm gonna call it some medium plus intense flavors of, and I get everything that I confirm everything that I smell. You know, the rose petal, there's a like really beautiful floral lift to this wine. Nothing green, citrus, stone, tropical, but I'm getting all the red fruit here. So like all the red currant, cranberry, raspberry, strawberry. Maybe touch of that kind of like the green strawberry savoriness, but really red berry. Nothing really black here. The fruit nature, both fresh, ripe. There's some high toned, kind of like candied fruit here as well, but really, just really pretty beautiful ripe fruit. Nothing herbaceous, nothing herbal, no spices. There's a little bit of like a crushed rock, kind of a minerality running through, which I really enjoy. Yeah, it's like if you were to somehow sprinkle rock dust on top of like a basket with strawberries, it's kind of like what it reminds me. Nothing secondary, nothing tertiary. There's a little bit of that kind of lifted VA. There's a little bit of that like balsamic vinegar. You know, it's like, you know, that Italian dessert where like you drizzle balsamic vinegar on top of strawberries, like the wild macerated strawberries. It's kind of got that kind of a thing going on. Yeah. But yeah, it's still very fresh, still very much in the primary. All right, the finish. You know what? I'm gonna go back and change my tandem call. Actually, I'm gonna call this medium. There's actually a bit of a grip here, and I think this is also the clay, the lower in the slope. What was the name of that? Le Bouillat. Yeah, that plot. There's actually more tannin than I had initially called. I'm definitely feeling the grip, so I'm gonna call my call on tannin to medium. Anyways, finally the finish. You know, I think that's one thing here that I feel like I was leaving me wanting more. I wish the flavor stuck around. I mean, it's beautiful. It's like kind of evolving thing, kind of hits you with that beautiful floral thing, flower, and then kind of lends into that kind of mineral rockiness. But it's not super long. I think I'm gonna call this medium. I'm not quite ready to call this medium plus. So I'm gonna call it about medium in its length. So let's put it all together. How good is this wine? Well, is this wine balanced? I think it's very well balanced. There's nothing here that's sticking out. Even that VA is very much in check. In fact, if anything, I think it gives the wine the personality. It kind of lifts up the fruit, makes it brighter, really makes it dance on its feet. So yeah, I think it's very well balanced. Intensity, we call it medium plus, almost pronounced on the nose. Medium plus on the palate, so definitely medium plus at least. Complexity, we call that flower, floral, a bunch of red fruit, both fresh and ripe, as well as candied and high toned. We have that kind of green strawberry, kind of savory note, as well as a crushed rock. But all primary, nothing secondary, not tertiary, bit of a VA. So I'm gonna call that a medium. and the length we call it about medium as well. So when you take a average of all those things, a balance, medium plus to pronounce, but medium plus intensity, medium complexity, and then about medium length. So we're landing somewhere between two mediums and a medium plus. So it's closer to good, but because the intensity being closer to pronounced, I think it's landing us somewhere between good and very good. And being generous, I'm gonna call this very good. But I think if you landed on good, I think it's just as I think it's a very fair call. Readiness for drinking and potential for aging. We called it what, medium to medium plus, somewhere in there. I think we called it actually medium plus on the acid, and then medium on tannin. So decent backbone. Intensity, there's plenty of intensity. And I think this is wine, there's enough there for it to hold on to the freshness and the primary fruit while it develops into tertiary. But ultimately, I don't know if this wine is necessarily going to get more delicious with aging. Like, to me, what makes this wine delicious is that it's lift, it's freshness, all these kind of bright red berries, it's kind of primary fruit driven, kind of a crunchy, natty Beaujolais that it is. So I wouldn't necessarily want to age it much longer. I don't think it's going to fall apart anytime soon, especially given that this is 21. So it's got 5 years of aging on it already, and it's still very much in the primary world. But I would say drink this within the next 3 to 5 years. I would say, yeah, pick up a few bottles and then keep it around and drink it over the next 3 years and then see how it changes. You'll probably start to see some tertiary start to peak in a little bit around year 3 from now. But yeah, I wouldn't say hold this for a long time. This is kind of a wine that you can drink for the next few years, the next 3 to 5 years, but you're not holding on to it in hopes of it developing to something more complex and more delicious. So, and that's what Regnie usually is. I mean, Regnie is just meant to be more fresh, that kind of like red berry driven, that kind of immediate joy of drinking kind of Beaujolais, like I mentioned. So it is exactly what it's supposed to be, and god damn it, it's delicious. It reminds me again so much of the kind of initial Beaujolais that I used to. I still like drinking it, but like that's what got me into Beaujolais, what got me into natural wine. It reminds me so much of that. It's fantastic, love it. Anyways, if you have any questions, you know where to find me. Shoot me an email, shoot me a text, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you all next week. Toodles.